ever sometimes decide to do up a channel or to host a program in some with the kind of boldness, with the kind of swiftness that you have in interviewing the world leaders? Would you ever think or imagine to have a channel, or would you ever do something with regards to journalism in your own country? Your parents have been very patriotic. They've done so much for India. Would you ever think to come back and do something like that? Sorry, it's a very personal question, but I've been an admirer of us.
No, not at all. And I'll give you a personal answer. You're right. I grew up in a household in which India's political future was the most important dinner table conversation. We didn't talk about what I had learned in school that day. We talked about what was going to happen to India, whether, what were its prospects. I remember still as a little child, my parents would listen, rather than listening to Bollywood songs, which they listened to plenty. But, when the formal occasion or something important happened, they would play Jawaharlal Nehru's speeches. It's still, I can still remember, and I can still quote the entire Freedom at Midnight speech. For them, this was their secular religion. My father once said to me, the most important choice he ever made in his life, he made as a teenager, which was as an Indian Muslim to decide to opt for Nehru's vision of a secular democracy rather than Jinnah's vision of religious nationalism, right? You said he was an Islamic scholar, and he was certainly schooled and learned in that area. But his scholarship was almost entirely about the Indian Muslim condition and the importance of Indian Muslims being secular and being integrating themselves into the fabric of India. For him, this was the paramount challenge that he wanted to navigate and overcome. So this was his life's work. So all of which is to just say to you, I have a very deep emotional, personal, political interest and commitment to India. So I don't want you to think when I tell you what I'm going to tell you that it comes from a lack of interest. But I don't think you can participate in the political life of a country sitting 6,000 miles away without the deep knowledge you need to understand it. I think that I wouldn't be able to be very effective. I think that what Amir has done using his platform and is a much more powerful version of anything that I could ever do. Not just because he's brilliant and because he's a Bollywood star and all that, but because he's deeply rooted in these issues. He knows it, he lives it. It is his country at the end of the day, and I have to admit, honestly, that while I have great affection for India, I have, deep personal association. It isn't my country in that sense, and I would be an imposter in that situation. So what I can do is to offer the kind of advice I do from the outside, and to wish people who are doing great work, as I said, like the ABP, like independent media everywhere, and people like Amir. The important thing is to just keep doing it and to remember, it looks like a struggle. And it seems that there's all these pressures. But the truth is there is enormous vitality in Indian society. And everything changes. Every time you think that there is a new dispensation that is going to go on forever, the great thing about a democracy is it changes. It doesn't look like that 10 years from now. India will look different 10 years from now. In some ways better, in some ways worse, but different. And your job is to make sure that that core of Indian values, ideals that have stood true for it, from 1947, continue. And this is one of the things that I think India can be proud of, no matter what, whether you get, one or two reforms right or wrong, whether you get GST right or wrong, 100 years from now, no one's going to remember that stuff in the history books. But they will remember if you preserve or destroy Indian democracy.
Yeah, ideas of India.